Alrighty, so the Umbrella Academy Season 3 recently came out on Netflix. I finished watching it about 10, 15 minutes ago, maybe. So today I, the film watcher, shall be ranking all 3 seasons of the Umbrella Academy from my least favorite to my favorite. Now, when we're talking about this show, it's kind of tough because, like, every season is, at the very least, awesome. So, it's tough to rank them, but I'm gonna do my best. So that said, let's get started. In last place is unfortunately going to be season 2. Now, when I first watched the season, for whatever reason, I was let down and was like, that wasn't that good. And then I recently rewatched it, leading up to season 3, and I was like, oh wait, that is actually really good. What was I thinking? Anyway, so the thing about season 2 that I don't love is kind of the villain aspect of it. They brought back the Handler, and I don't dislike the Handler. She's just not a character that really appeals to me. I don't think she's that interesting. I think she's a little bit obnoxious at points. So them bringing her back after she got shot in the head, like in the brain. Yeah, the head is where the brain is. That was just like, are you sure about that? Really? And then you also have the new commission group that comes after the Umbrella Academy. And I'm sorry, but after season 1, they had so much to live up to with Hazel and Cha-Cha that the new commission assassins that were brought in, those being the Swedes, they'll get names, they're referred to by the commission as the Swedes. They're just such boring characters. They don't talk, except in Swedish, sometimes. 2 of them die in, honestly, kind of funny ways. But they're just not that interesting. Like, they're cool in action sequences, and then the one of them just kind of leaves at the end. Are they ever going to go back to that? Probably not. They did it in season 3, so who knows? I just didn't really care much for the Swedes. And then Lila, I think, was an alright addition to the cast. I really liked her relationship with Diego. That was a fun little dynamic they had there. But there was also the issue of, is she, with her being kind of the main threat that had to be taken down, and then she came over to their side, and then it wasn't clear what she was doing after. And that's another issue with this season. Like, the whole threat of the apocalypse is, it's not the same, but it's also pretty much the same as season 1. Like, it's an apocalypse that the Academy has to stop, and when they do, the timeline gets screwed up. Okay, we've done all this before, and it just, I don't know, it rings a little tiny bit hollow. That said, this season has some really, really awesome elements. For one, it's like, it makes certain characters that weren't that likable in season 1, Diego, Luther, Allison, in my opinion. It makes them more likable by giving them something more interesting to do. You got Allison involved in, like, civil rights movements. She's married to, like, this really nice dude named Raymond, who's just a cool guy. Luther is a cage fighter, and he's sad about everything, and it's kind of funny when he just gets drunk and high on nitrous oxide. Don't know, Orange Scrivello, I guess. I don't know. And then Diego had the thing with Lila, and that was just a fun dynamic. You get to see a bit more of, like, his kind of hero complex and his desire to save Kennedy. And I like that they incorporated, like, certain political aspects of the 1960s into this season with, like, the civil rights movements that Allison was involved in, as well as the assassination of President Kennedy. So that was interesting. I like that the gang all had contact with Reginald. Like, it's fun to see where he's at, kind of, especially when he's creating Tiny Pogo, who's so cute, man. You got Five running around trying to stop everything, because that's what Five does. Klaus is involved in is leading a cult, which is that's just like the perfect thing for him to do. And then Vanya is on a farm with a kid and the kid's mom and the kid's dad. He's in this very sweet relationship with the mom named Sissy, and they're just a nice pairing, a nice couple. And then the dad is who is just not a very nice guy. Actually, he's not a horrible human being. He's just not a very good human being. Yeah. Another thing that did bug me about this, actually, no, positive first. The action in this season was awesome. They were leaning into a bit more of the MA as opposed to 14, and I'm glad they made that transition going into season 3. Plus, this season ended on a really, really strong note with, like, the handler killing everybody, and then 5, like, going back in time, making it so the handler died. Hopefully the handler stays dead from now on. If we get a season 4, I do not want to see her again. There. But the one thing that did bug me out of the season, I forgot to mention earlier, I don't get why they played music that came out post 1963 in a season that took place pretty much entirely in 1963. That was a bit weird. It did kind of take me out of the 60s aesthetic, which was good, but when they start playing Hello by Adele sung in Swedish, that's like, what? Like, you couldn't have picked a 1960s song to sing in, like, you gotta be kidding me. Could they just not get the rights for any 60s songs? What's the deal? I don't know. So, this season was good. It was a good season. It was a very good season. It had a lot of really great elements and some great character dynamics with the Academy all coming together again, and I like that they had to assemble all of them, get them back together. But, as a whole, it just, I don't know, there were a couple elements that were just kind of lacking in terms of how good we expect this show to be in terms of season 1, and we'll talk about that later. But anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts on season 2. Number 2 is going to be season 3, the latest season to come out. I thought that this season was actually pretty awesome. It really kicked it into high gear in those last 4 episodes where it just was all tension building and different group dynamics and stuff and team all coming together. And it was like, oh, this is awesome, and it built to this just really bizarre cliffhanger ending that was just awesome. The problem is, I liked the previous 6 episodes in the season, but they made some errors that I think should not have been made, and that just bugged me. So at the end of season 2, we got the hook of, whoa, the Sparrow Academy! What is this? Who are these people? And we're introduced to them in the first episode of this season. And then throughout the first 3 episodes, they all start to die. Come on. Okay. I thought that this season was going to be about the Sparrow and Umbrella Academies, interacting and butting heads and stuff like that. But, why would you introduce this really awesome idea of 6 completely new characters and 1 completely new version of an old character, and then kill most of them off by the end of the season? Come on, these are such interesting characters. Jerk Ben. I mean, he stays alive, but he's a fun character. Sloane, a great pairing for Luther. Those are bad examples. Those 2 stay alive by the end of the season. But the blind raven chick, the dude who looks like Pizza the Hut, the Cube. What? I want to know more about these people. I would they're so interesting. I want to see these new dynamics with them and the rest of the team. And we get so little with so many of them. Oh, another one. The chick who looks like the spawn of Anne Hathaway and Kristen Ritter. You know who I'm talking about. Maybe you don't. Jamie was her name. Think about it. Can you see it in it? Whatever. I wanted to see more of the Sparrow Academy. And this season was just a lot of the Umbrella Academy, who are great. Like, they're all awesome, but we've seen them all before, and I want to see them interact with new people who are good, they're gonna butt heads with, and they do in episode 1, and it's awesome. There's an entire dance sequence that happens in Diego's mind to Footloose by Kenny Loggins. That's not really relevant to what I'm talking about, but it's awesome. It happened. You know, man, I don't know. And another thing about this season, the CGI. Oh man, it was kind of rough. Not gonna lie. Oh boy. Now I do really like that this season focused in on something that was different from an apocalypse. It was this thing called the Kugelblitz, which was killing everybody in giant shockwaves. So that was new, and I liked that. I like how the robot mom thought it was God. So, my thoughts when I was first watching this, when the ball thing first appeared, I was like, wait a minute, so the conflict of the season is going to be that God put a ball of energy in the basement? That's not really what it is. Actually, that is what it is. It's just not God who put it there. We don't really know how it get. Actually, no, we do, because of the paradox of the Umbrella Academy being there when they weren't supposed to be born. That was interesting. I really enjoyed that whole element. And even certain storylines that felt a bit out of nowhere, like they actually tied into stuff that happened later in the season, like Klaus going to find his birth mother. And we get introduced to Old Harlan, which was introduced as a guy named Lester Pocket. And I was like, who the heck is this guy? But honestly, I really enjoyed that element of the season. And yeah, of course, he does die later in the season, which was a bit sad. That ties into another issue I had with this season, which was the entirety of Allison. I don't like Allison in this season. She is incredibly unlikable. Yeah, I liked her before. She was great in season 2, and she was interesting in season 1. She was kind of a jerk in season 1, but she was she was kind of nice, but she was interesting. Like, the moral complexities of she had this daughter, and that she used her power on one time to get her to go to sleep, and it's like, that had massive repercussions, and she, used her powers to get everything that she wanted in life, and that's interesting. This season, she's just mean for the whole thing. And it's like, at first it's kind of justified, because it's like, oh yeah, she's sad because her daughter and her husband are gone. And then she just starts lashing out in the most, unlikable of ways. She's just such a jerk to everyone. She tries to rumor Luther into doing it with her, which was just, oh, that is weird. And, she had this whole blowout with Victor, where Victor ended up punching her in the face, which was, I was like, I did not like Allison very much in this season. You know who I did like more in this season? Lila. She's, I don't know, she's likable. She kidnaps one of her friend's children and tests Diego on whether or not he'd be a good dad because she's pregnant. And then that kid gets Kugelblitzed and dies, which was a shame. But yeah, that was a good actor, that kid, man. I really like the updated new Reginald Hargreaves, how he's kind of a jerk, but he's also actually kind of nice. And he's revealed to be the same psychopathic murderer dude who just, man, and those last few episodes. Anyway, I really enjoyed this season, and I really wish that they'd focus more on the Sparrow Academy. Honestly, this could have been 3 episodes longer, maybe, if they just focused on the Sparrow Academy, had all of them at the end, instead of just Ben, who we already know, because he's just a jerk, and Sloane, who in and of herself is not a terribly interesting character. She's good. I love her dynamic with Luther, but I don't know. This season did end on a very good cliffhanger, and there was some really bad CGI in that I find a cliffhanger also. But anyway, a very good season, just one that I do wish had some minor tweaks in it. Yeah. But easily coming in at number one, first place, is season 1. I've watched this season many a time, and it doesn't get old. It's such an amazing introduction to these characters who at this point are fresh and new, so you want to learn more about them. You want to see them interacting with one another, and they're just complete dysfunctionality that comes with all of them. And, like, I mean, some of them can stand to be a bit more likable. Luther, Diego, and Allison in particular are not that nice of people but they're interesting, and you want to know more about them. Like, Luther is just this kind of sheltered little guy who's just a really big guy who was just living for his father exclusively, and now that his father's dead, he's like, what am I going to do? I'm going to be a hero. I'm going to step up. And then he's like, he just kind of falls apart at some point. Man, and he has this dynamic with Allison that it's a bit questionable, because they were referred to themselves as brother and sister, even though they weren't really raised as brother and sister. They were just kids in the same environment. They weren't blood related, so it's technically it's fine. Diego was kind of just a jerk, but he was an enjoyable jerk, and I liked his character. And then Allison just is not a very good person, but she's nice sometimes. Man, the one thing that this season has like a huge step up on in terms of the other two seasons is the villains, the antagonists. Like, there's always a threat. There's always something that's gonna end the world or something, and there's always Reginald who's doing crap that he does a lot, but the standout antagonists, no, the only antagonists were, you have Hazel and Cha-Cha, who have such a fun dynamic with each other, because Cha-Cha's just so serious, and Hazel's just a kind of a lazy bum who doesn't care about the commission at all, and just wants to run off with Donut Lady and watch birds, and they're a nice couple, and they have such a great dynamic. What did I just say? Dynamic. And then of course you have Leonard. Ooh, Leonard, man, he is just such a despicable antagonist, man. The way he just manipulates Vanya, and he just, oh man, he's just, he's got his hooks in, and I don't know what that means, but yeah, his manipulation goes all the way back to like the cellist that Vanya doesn't really like getting killed in his basement, and him killing his father, and him running up to Reginald and being like, hey, I was born on this same day, I gotta have powers too, and Reginald was like, no, I refuse to believe that you have powers, get out of here. That's supposed to be a monocle, can you tell? Okay. So yeah, this season was full of great characters. Like, the Academy themselves, especially the two standouts for me, number 5, who was just kind of an ass, but he was so funny. And Aidan Gallagher, he was maybe 14 or 15 at the time. He maybe gives my favorite performance of the entire show. Overall, not even just in this season, overall. He is phenomenal. He absolutely feels like an old man trapped in the body of a pubescent teen, and he's just so much fun, and honestly, like, very murderous, which puts him in conflict with some of the other siblings, like Luther, and it's just, what a great dynamic he has with everybody. Literally everyone. And then you have Klaus, the other standout. Man, Klaus is just such an entertainingly bizarre character. And maybe next to number 5, I think Robert Sheehan as Klaus was probably my favorite performance of the entire show. He's so entertaining. And he's actually kind of an interesting character, because we see that he had a really, really rough childhood. Man, he gets locked in a mausoleum with a bunch of spirits yelling at him. He gets tortured in this season. Yeah, he's on drugs and he's high all the time, but he's so funny. And then you have Vanya, Vanya is just a very interesting character because she's just kind of in a very small pocket in this season, but then is through her experiences with Leonard is able to kind of come out of her shell a little bit. She strikes up a romance with him, and it's very ill-fated and very weird when you think about it, but because he was manipulating her so much. But and when you get to like the final few episodes, it's just actions all over the place, just so much fun to see all this stuff. That didn't really, what I just said made no sense at all, but I don't know, it was just slam bang finale inside of this auditorium with so much of the action in this season, not just in this scene in particular, but in the season as a whole. Maybe the best of any like superhero TV show right now, and I'm talking The Boys too. Man, just some wonderfully choreographed, wonderfully filmed action sequences. The cinematography in the show is great, and then like you have all the music, the fun music that they use. Don't Stop Me Now by Queen playing while Five runs around with a mannequin getting shot by machine guns in a department store. That was awesome, man. And then you have the Commission, which is just a bizarre element to throw in there, and you got just a great season filled with incredible characters, great action, and some genuine drama that's interesting with all of these bizarre relationships and these ludicrous characters. It's just such a great season of television, and I don't know if they're ever going to be able to top it again, but I don't know. It was just a phenomenal season for me. So, yeah, that is my ranking of the 3 seasons of The Umbrella Academy. If you've seen Season 3, leave your comments down below, your rankings and such. Like this video if you're on it. Why would you be watching this if you're not on it? Subscribe for more content somewhat like this. And thanks for watching, and keep calm and watch on.